Welcome to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. If you're listening on Spotify, you can support the podcast through listener support. Plus, check out exclusive show-related content and join the community at patreon.com/Animal Stories for Kids. And now, it's time for our story. Once upon a time, there was an alligator named Ignacio. Ignacio the alligator always wanted to slide down the mountain, down the river, all the way down to where his swamp was. But he never been out of the swamps. So one day, Ignacio the alligator really wanted to know what it was like to be out of the swamp and going through the wilderness, through the forest, and up the mountain and into a spring coming from the mountain, going into a creek, going into a small lake, to a waterfall, down a river, all the way down to where his swamp was. He always wanted to go down that river, and most of all, he really wanted to go up the mountain to see everything. So Ignacio the alligator made up his mind one day, and he got out of the swamp and started walking toward the wilderness. But then he ran into a frog who asked him, "Hey, alligator, where are you going?" And the alligator said to the frog, "Hey, frog, I'm gonna head up to the mountains over there because I kind of want to go down the water kind of like a slide. I've never been out of the swamp before, and it'll be cool to just check out what's up in the mountain and to see how the water from the mountain comes down and gets to the swamp." Then the frog said, "Hey, that sounds pretty cool, but wouldn't it be pretty cold up in the mountains? I mean, wouldn't you be more comfortable here in the swamps where it's nice and warm and humid and musky? I mean, you're so used to it anyways. You've been living here your whole life. Why go up the mountain and go to somewhere cold and different?" And Ignacio the alligator told the frog, "Well, yeah, it's true. I've been here in the swamp my whole life, and it's nice, warm, humid. Yeah, who doesn't love it? But I've never been on a water slide before, let alone a water slide down a mountain. Now that sounds really cool. Here in the swamps, we don't have any slides. All we have are bugs and logs and mud. It's not that fun. I just want to check out the mountain and see how the water gets all the way down and comes into the swamp. I think there's a slide and I would love to ride on a slide. So I'm just gonna head up there." And the frog said to Ignacio the alligator, "Cool. Well, tell me how it is when you get back. See you later." And Ignacio the alligator said to the frog, "See you later." And he started walking into the wilderness. And as he was walking, Ignacio the alligator saw a wild turkey. And the wild turkey looked at Ignacio and said, Don't eat me. Please don't eat me." And Ignacio the alligator said to the wild turkey, "Hey, don't worry. I'm not going to eat you. I'm just trying to get through the wilderness to go up to the mountain." And the wild turkey said to Ignacio the alligator, "Well, I mean, it's not like I can do anything about it. Like, if you're gonna eat me, you're gonna eat me, right? So, yeah, sure, just go, please, you can go through the wilderness. I'm not gonna stop you." And the wild turkey ran off. And Ignacio the alligator walked out of the wilderness and into the forest. It started getting a little colder, and the wind picked up a little bit. But Ignacio the alligator just had to get up to the mountain to go down the water slide. And so as Ignacio the alligator was walking through the forest, a squirrel came out of nowhere and yelled, "Ah, it's an alligator! Everyone, get out of here! There's an alligator here in the forest!" "Wait, what are you doing in the forest?" the squirrel asked Ignacio the alligator. And Ignacio said, "Well, I was kind of bored today. Just swimming around the swamps, and I looked up and saw the mountain, and I thought to myself, hey, I'm sure there's some water that comes down the mountain and kind of goes through the forest and through the wilderness and comes out into the swamp somehow. And I actually wanted to slide down that water, so I'm on my way up to that mountain." And the squirrel said to Ignacio the alligator, "Yeah, but aren't you better suited for warmer places like the swamps where it's nice and warm and humid? What are you doing here in the forest? It's cold here." and I've never seen an alligator before. Are you sure you're not going to eat me or any of us here in the forest?" And Ignacio the alligator said, No, like I said, I'm not here to find food. I'm here to go to the mountain, so I'm just going through the forest. Can you just let me through without getting scared or anything? I promise I'm not going to eat you. Even though if I was a little more hungrier, I'd probably want to eat you. Like, why wouldn't I? I mean, look at me. I'm scary. I got teeth and yeah, But don't worry, I'm not going to eat you. So I'm just going to walk through this forest and go up the mountain. So, see you later. And the squirrel said to Ignacio the alligator, "I'm scared to death of you. So, bye. Enjoy your little mountain adventure." And so Ignacio the alligator walked through the forest and he got to the bottom of the mountain. And he looked up into the mountain and it started getting a little bit colder and a little bit more windier. But the alligator was here and he really wanted to go see what was on the top of the mountain and slide down the water slide. And so Ignacio the alligator started walking up the mountain. And as he was walking up the mountain, he kept his eye out for a creek or a small river or a small lake or waterfall or wherever the water was so that he could catch a ride down the mountain back home into a swamp. And so he kept on climbing up the mountain, and Ignacio the alligator started getting a little more colder, and the wind started to get a little bit more stronger, but Ignacio the alligator would not let that stop him. And so he kept on climbing and climbing up the mountain. And as Ignacio the alligator looked down the mountain, he saw that he was really high. And so he turned around and looked up and knew that there was only one way to go, and that was even higher. And so Ignacio the alligator kept on walking and climbing up the mountain, and he got colder and colder, but that did not stop him. And then Ignacio stopped, and he heard what sounded to him like a little bit of water. And he followed the sound of that water, and he followed the sound, and he followed the sound until it led him to a small spring of water that was on the mountain. And Ignacio's eyes got wide with excitement, and he was so happy that he finally found some water. He just couldn't wait to follow it to where it went. And so Ignacio the alligator followed the spring of water that led to a small pool of water next to it. And Ignacio the alligator went to that small pool of water and saw that it was spilling over the edge. And so he followed that, and he saw a small waterfall dropping down into a small creek. And so he followed the creek, and he followed the creek in the mountains until the creek got a little bit wider and a little bit bigger, and he noticed that it turned into a bigger creek that turned into a little river. And he knew that he finally found the water slide that he was looking for. And he saw that that river went down the mountain, and it went through the forest and through the wilderness. And he saw that it slowed down and stopped and spread out right into a swamp. Ignacio the alligator was ready to jump in, but then he didn't want to be cold. And so he looked back and he thought to himself, I could just walk back down the mountain, but that would take the rest of the day. Or I could just do what I came up here to do and just go down this water slide. And as he was thinking, he looked down the water. It turned into a big creek and a stream that went down the mountain and through all the way to the swamp. And he said to himself, well, I came up here to do something, and I'm up here now. Might as well just do it. Let's see how fun this thing is. And so Ignacio the alligator stepped one foot into the water, and it was really cold. And then he stepped another foot into the water, and now he was really, really cold. And he knew that if he kept doing this, that he would never get anywhere. And so with one motion, he pulled his whole body into the water, and he started sliding down the creek and into the stream and started picking up speed going down the mountain. And Ignacio the alligator was finally going down the water slide down the mountain he always wanted to. And he said, "Woohoo! I can't believe I'm doing this! This is so much fun!" And out of nowhere, the stream opened up and there were rocks all over the place. And Ignacio the alligator hit one rock and he rolled over and he hit another rock. And then the stream opened up even more and there were pieces of wood and dead trees all over. And Ignacio the alligator slammed on some wood and rolled off from a rock, and he splashed back down into the water again and got carried down the mountain until finally the water slowed down through the wilderness and slowed down all the way as Ignacio the alligator floated down slowly back home to his swamp, beaten and bruised from going down the water slide, hitting the rocks and all the wood all the way down. And as Ignacio stopped in the swamp, the frog came out again and said, "Hey, Ignacio, you did a great job. I saw you sliding all the way down from up there all the way back here. It looked like you hit a lot of stuff on the way down. Are you okay? Was it as fun as you thought it was going to be?" And Ignacio the alligator looked at the frog and said, "You know what? I hit a lot of rocks. The water was cold. I was shivering the whole time. I hit some pieces of wood and I think I got a splinter on my tail. I think I broke some bones and I'm bruised up. And I'm back here and you know what? That was the most fun I ever had. It was more fun than I thought it was going to be. Except for all the getting hurt part. I think I'm going to be hurt for a few weeks now." And the frog asked Ignacio, "Will you ever want to do it again?" And Ignacio looked at the frog straight in the eyes and said, "No, I don't ever want to do that again. That was so cold, and I don't ever want to hit a rock that hard ever again." And so Ignacio the alligator walked away from the frog with a big smile on his face because he had a plan and he was able to do it. Even though he got hurt, and at least he knew now that he never wanted to go down that water slide ever again, but he was so happy that he was able to go to a new place instead of the same old swamp, and to meet new animals, and to see new things up in the mountains. And so he laid there on the ground, taking in all of the sun, and fell into a deep sleep. And the alligator lived happily ever after. The end. The alligator is a large reptile and are mainly one of two species, the American alligator and the Chinese alligator. This means alligators are native to only the United States and China. Alligators can weigh almost 800 pounds and can be 13 feet long and can grow up to almost 1,000 pounds and almost 14 feet long. The largest alligator was recorded to be 19 feet long. The Chinese alligator is smaller than the American alligator and are generally about 7 feet in length and about 100 pounds. Alligators live in freshwater environments such as ponds, marshes, wetlands, swamps, rivers, and lakes, and also in brackish water. The alligator's jaws are powerful, but the muscles for opening the jaws are weak. The alligator's diet includes fish, insects, turtles, various mammals, birds, deer, and other reptiles. The highest populations of alligators can be found in Florida and Louisiana in the United States. Their scales get darker with age and can almost turn black. Alligators have an armor-plated body that varies in color from yellow to green to brown and black in old age. The tail of an alligator is very muscular and is used to move in the water very fast. Alligators have short, stocky legs with webbing between their toes. Alligators have multiple stomachs, with the first part containing stones to grind up food and the second part being very acidic to help in digestion. The alligator is a solitary predator, which means they're usually by themselves. They can tend to be slow while they're crawling or sliding between slippery banks on their bellies. They're very territorial and make noises to let other creatures know that they're crossing certain boundaries. The difference between an alligator and a crocodile is that alligators have a U-shaped snout, while crocodiles have a V shape. Also, alligators have webbed feet, while crocodiles' feet are not webbed, and alligators are normally darker in color. Alligators tend to hang out in fresh water, while crocodiles tend to prefer salty waters. Alligators have a wide upper jaw, while crocodiles have both upper and lower jaws the same size. Have you ever seen a real-life alligator before? If you have, where did you see it? If you want to write to us, ask your parent to email us at animalstoriesforkids@gmail.com and tell us what you think of our stories. We would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. If you're listening on Spotify, you can support the podcast through listener support. Plus, check out exclusive show-related content and join the community at patreon.com/animalstoriesforkids. Until next time, bye!